How you doing, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here, and today's video is on this SJC Custom Drums Heirloom 3-piece shell pack. If you're into the sound, the feel, the look, the vibe of vintage drums, but you also want something new, today's modern shell construction, today's modern build, then these SJC Heirloom drums are definitely something you should consider because they're very cool. They're an awful lot of fun to play. They look and sound great. So let's get into all of the details of this drum kit right now. The sound of these drums start with these fantastic shells here. These are 6-ply hybrid shells made with maple, mahogany, and poplar wood. 3 killer tone woods that are great on their own, but you mix them together and they come up with a really fantastic sound. Now, also in there are reinforcement rings, maple reinforcement rings, which add to the stability of the shell, but also give it a little bit of a punch. Mahogany is going to give it some that warmth, depth of sound, and the maple gives it a little bit more of a crack. You know, you couple all this stuff together and you get a great sounding shell. Now also, the bearing edges are very cool. They're 30-degree, hand-cut, rounded over bearing edges. I'll take the head off of this rack tom here in just a minute, show you the inside of the drum, and you can also see the edge, but that rounded over 30-degree bearing edge gives you great warm tone, definitely in that vintage vibe. And then the third thing is the size of these drums. The rack tom especially is really cool, 7.5 inches deep by 13 inches in diameter. What a cool size, great. The 13-inch diameter right here in front of me is fantastic just to get the feel, to get your stick on it. Feels great right there. But the 7.5 inches deep is just killer. Then you have a 14 by 16 inch floor tom and a big, gigantic, great sounding 14 by 24 inch kick drum. All that being said, let's get into the sound of the drums now. I'm going to start with the snare wires off and play the toms for you. So here we go. Beautiful sustain, nice warm tone. Now let me tell you, when you get this kit out of the box, you're going to be outfitted with Evans G2 coated heads, which are great, very professional, nice 2-ply head. But like I say, whenever I do a drum kit video, even if you buy the most expensive drum kit of all time, you should experiment on different head combinations because you never know what combination is going to give you that sound that is you, what you're hearing and what you really like. Now, since this kit had a vintage vibe and a vintage look to it, these Evans 56 calf tone heads I thought would be a great head to try, and I'm really glad I did because they're making these drums sound fantastic. So let me put the snare wires back on and do the same thing for you. Here we go. Totally inspiring to hear and to play on. And I have the rack tom tuned up pretty high. I was going for a little bit more of a sort of jazzier tuning on the rack tom, but then you couple it really, the other extreme with this really low-pitched floor tom. It's a great tone interval between the two drums. All right, now to this huge 14 by 24 inch kick drum. Snare wires off first. Here we go. From the player side, this drum is just gargantuan. It sounds really big and beautiful. Now, like with the toms, the kick drum, when you get it out of the box, is outfitted with a clear EMAD head. I put on an Evans 56 calf tone EMAD on the batter side of the kick drum here. Again, just to give it a little bit of a, you get a little bit less snap because of the head not being clear, but it still has the felt of the EMAD around the whole head, and you get a nice dampening of the drum. I have a tiny bit of dampening on the resonant side, just a little bit, and man, it's coupling together and making for a huge, fat kick drum sound. Snare wires on, do the same thing. Just killer. Now, this drum kit will work in any style of music. It's vintage, it's just a four-piece kit with the snare drum, right? But you could rock till the cows come home. And when the cows come home, you should be ready to rock because you could rock with this drum kit for sure. Loud guitars, big loud stage, or in the studio, this kit's gonna fit any style of music. Very cool. Now, it's a three-piece shell pack, doesn't come with a snare drum. So I coupled it today with the SJC Custom Dudley steel snare. It's a 6.5 by 14 steel drum. Feels really good, and it just goes with the sound of this drum kit, I think, in a really good way. It's very sensitive, got a nice crack to it. Let me put all of the drums together, snare wires off and snare wires back on, so you can hear the drums as a whole thing. Here we go. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a lot of fun to play. Has a great vibe, great inspiration from the player side. And whenever you sit behind a drum kit that gives you that, just makes you want to play more. Okay, let's quickly talk about the hardware that come on these drums. It's very simple. Triple flange tube on the toms. Their lugs are really cool. They're die-cast shield lugs. It has the same sort of shield look as their badge, but they're studio quiet. And they don't use springs inside their lugs, SJC. And what that does is it keeps the tuning rod in there tightly, so when you get your drum in tune, it really stays there for an awfully long time, no matter how hard you're hitting it. So it's a really cool, nice feature as far as the lug is concerned. They have really beautiful claw hooks on their kick drum, and nice spurs, good floor tom legs. Overall, the hardware is simple, but very functional and works really well. All right, we took the head off the rack tom here so we can look at the inside of the shell. You can see the beautiful dark wood on the inside and then the maple reinforcement rings right here. Great juxtaposition of colors, but these rings really have a purpose in the sound of the shell and the durability and stability of the shell. Also here, these rounded over 30-degree edges feel just totally smooth to the touch. And all the way around, you get great head contact on the shell with your drum head. Just really nice build and very cool drums. And finally, before I close off this video, we have to talk about the look of this drum kit. The color, custard matte lacquer finish. Beautiful looking, I mean, it looks like it's a drum kit that's been sitting in a club for years and years and just, it's kind of worn over time, and this color is just fantastic. You couple that with this wood badge that just sticks out, that kind of 3D image of the badge sticking out of the shell. It's a nice visual feature there. And then finally you have the hoops on the kick drum. Zebra wood hoops that just round out the look of this kit and really bring out that vintage vibe. It's really cool. I'd like to encourage you to check out the text below the video. There I have links to all of the other gear I'm using in the video here, all these beautiful Audio-Technica microphones, the great Meinl cymbals I have here, the heads, the sticks, all the recording gear. There's links to all of that gear in case you want to check any of that out, and you can go directly to the product page of that particular piece of gear. Also, if you have any comments, please leave them below. Subscribe to our YouTube page. There's tons of content on the Sweetwater YouTube page from anything you can possibly think of. It's a great place for content. And there you have it, everybody, the SJC Custom Drums Heirloom 3-piece shell pack. Great vintage kit, great vintage vibe and sound and feel. Awful lot of fun to play. If you want any more information about this SJC product or any other SJC product, just contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. Thanks a lot for watching.